In this video, I'm going to take a rather roundabout way of showing you another iteration statement, the while statement. And to demonstrate this, we're going to open up a text file and read each line of the text file, displaying it in a console window, of course, until we get to the end of the file. The other key idea in this video, actually there's several key ideas, in addition to the while statement, which we'll feature, how to add other files to our project, how to change the properties of objects, and we'll briefly talk about streams. Okay, so first just follow along everything that I do, and then we're going to circle back and talk about everything and explain why I did it and how I did it. Okay, so here we go. First of all, I'm going to create a new project. File, new project from the menu. Another console application, we're going to call this read text file while. Okay. Alright, the first thing I want to do is add a new text file. I'm going to right click and select add new item. I'm going to select the text file and I'm going to call this values. We're going to store our values in here and select add. And now you can see in the Solution Explorer we now have another file. That's how you add another file to your project. Pretty simple. It's already opened up in our main area, so that was cool. So I'm just going to start typing in some numbers. Let's use some numbers from yesterday and some numbers you might be familiar with. Okay, and let's just save that and then close that tab. Okay. Next, let's start writing some code so that we can read those values out of the text file and start the process of displaying them. So here we go. Okay, so I've done the majority of the work for the moment. We still have some problems, some hurdles we're going to need to get past. But let me explain kind of what's going on here. The first thing that I did was I created an instance of the stream reader class called myReader. Boy, that syntax looks awfully strange right now. We're going to have to tackle that in the next 2 days when we talk about classes and objects and the new operator and all of that. For now, just copy this verbatim and we'll talk about that later. Okay? So, stream reader myReader equals new reader. And then we create an empty variable called line. Now what we want to do is start looping through and our file line by line, reading the values and printing them to screen. Okay, so you can see what I really want to focus on right now is the while statement. We have this while keyword with a condition in parentheses, and that condition is while line is not null. Here's another operator. We didn't talk about this one earlier today. That's the not equal to. The exclamation mark is usually a not operator, and it can be used in other ways, not just in conjunction with the equal sign. But in this case, it's evaluating to make sure that the line that we're currently reading out of the file is not empty. Null is another key word related to data types that we haven't covered yet, but we will. Okay. So while the line is not empty, then continue iterating through this block of code. In this case, what we want to do is read from the file line by line, pulling the contents of the next line into our line variable. And then we're going to evaluate that line. If that line is not empty or it's not null, then we're going to print that line to the screen. Okay, so then after we've hit this condition, when we've read all the lines that there are to read in the file, and the line is indeed null, then what we're going to do is close our connection to the file. Again, this involves streams, and I'm not ready to talk about streams per se, just copy this verbatim, but we're going to close that connection to the file, and then we're going to put our obligatory read line in our console window so that we can actually see what we were doing. So if I did this correctly, then this will run when I hit the Start Debugging button. Now I happen to know that we have a problem. And as you can see, you may have run into this already in some previous exercises. This little yellow line with the little box that pops up next to it. It couldn't find the file that we were talking about. Why? Because that file is really not in the read text file while /bin/debug/values.t/debug directory. We didn't copy that file over. That file still exists in our project directory, but remember there were a few levels under there. Here, let's take a look in our documents folder. We'll just do 2010. We'll go to projects. Oh, let's see here. Where is our read text file while? Okay. And here's our values.txt file. Where it needs to go is here in bin/debug. Remember, that's where our debug assembly is. When we hit start debugging, we're running from that debug assembly. It needs to be copied over here or else it can't be found, because we used a relative path. We didn't give an explicit path to where we wanted that file to be found. We could put it explicitly at c:/values.txt, but then it wouldn't be part of our project. So let's just suffice it to say that right now we need to handle this situation. You can see when we have this stream reader that we're passing in as a parameter to the stream reader this file that we want to open, the name of the file. What we have to do is come over here to our Solution Explorer, and there is a property that we're going to set. Now we're going to learn about properties a couple days from now, but it won't hurt you to take a look at this. We're going to copy to output directory. Currently it's set to do not copy. We'll select copy if newer. Okay? So now when we save our project and run it again, this should work. And it does. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. Okay. So a couple of concepts here. The big concept that I really want you to get is the while statement. It's a lot like the for statement, except that where the for statement is running a specific number of times that we kind of preset, we check for that condition and then we iterate and add one to that iterator, that little I value. This time it's different. The while statement continues to run until a statement is false. When the line indeed is null, then we break out of the while statement. So that's the iteration or the looping part of this equation that we want to learn about. Oh yeah, there was one other thing that you might have seen me do that I didn't really explain. I'm using the stream reader class. Now the full name of the stream reader is something like this, system.io.streamreader. Okay. Now when I first typed that in, this didn't exist, this using statement. And so we got some squiggly lines, right? Well, I hovered my mouse cursor over, and then eventually what popped up were, oops, I lost it there. This little options dialog popped up under it, and when I selected it, it gives me this chance to say, go ahead and insert the using statement. Go ahead and find the last name that you think I'm talking about. So to go to yesterday's analogy, show me a list of all the last names where the first name is Bob. Okay, in this case, show me all the last names where the first name is Stream Reader. Okay, and then go ahead and let's select the using statement there, and then it automatically inserts that using statement. It's just a little shortcut. I know I needed the stream reader class. What I didn't really take the time to do was figure out, where was that again? System.io, and I could fumble around and think about it. I'm like, I know stream reader's in there somewhere. I'll use this little feature that allows me to automatically insert the using statement. Pretty cool stuff. If it doesn't make complete sense to you, don't worry about it. The key here is the while statement. That's really what we want to get at. We'll talk about the stream reader and streams in general. We'll talk about some of these other operators that we use, like the not equal to and the null and things like that. We'll talk about those later. For now, hopefully you've got another iteration statement under your belt. Use the while when there's an indeterminate number of times that you'll need to iterate through a block of code. Unlike the for statement, where we knew for sure up front how many times that we were at least going to, the conditions that we were going to check. So that's the difference between the two. You can see that there is a need for both of those situations, and therefore that's why it exists. Okay, at the risk of over-explaining, we'll stop for now. See you in the next video. Thank you.